Welcome to the Opinionated Monsters. I am Scott McClellan of Carnival Diablo.
I'm Sonzi from OttawaHorror.com.
I'm Kevin the Zombie King from ZombieInfo.com.
And I'm Jessica, Machine and Mensch.
And today, our topic is going to be, what country makes the best horror film? Let's start with you, Kevin.
Okay, so I kind of struggle with this. What a surprise. I struggle with a lot of the topics as well.
Struggle with life occasionally.
I didn't write them. So, here's what I think. I don't really think that the answer, or that the topic for me is what country makes the best horror, but rather than what country makes the best horror right now. I kind of equate being a horror fan to being a junkie of some sorts. We don't really care where we get our next fix. We just want it to be good, and we just want it to be,
Kevin.
Yeah.
What is the best country that makes a horror movie now?
Now.
Now.
Okay, so now.
It's like trying to catch a fish.
It's like getting Jessica to use small words.
Oh, there you go.
It's like getting Kevin to stick to the topic. Oh, wait, that's the problem.
I'm not avoiding the topic. Here's the thing. I mean, I've had a lot of love come from different countries. I mean, if you look back in the 90s, the great things that were happening were coming out of France, things like High Tension. Then you look at even, later 90s, early 2000s, Korea.
France and Korea, two different countries. What is the best country for horror films?
Thank you.
I guess I would have to say it's kind of a tie between Japan and like Finland. Because, Japan has done the ghost story to death. I mean, there's things like Ju-on or The Ring, Ringu, but there's some really cool stuff that's coming out of there, coming up, that I've sort of got my eyes on. So, I'm excited about it. But Finland has put out these fantastic films. I mean, they've been consistently good. You got your things like Troll Hunter, which took the world by storm. It's, it's like Blair Witch with a payoff. It's so fantastic for that. There's even a movie that ZombieInfo.com you got behind. I mean, we kicked in some cash to their Kickstarter, and that's Iron Sky 2. We're super excited about that one coming up. Some great perks, by the way. You should check that out. Finland has really sort of managed to put out some of the better stories, even. Things like Let the Right One In, which, in my opinion, is probably one of the better vampire movies to come out in years. America, of course, had to remake it, but, because of God forbid anyone would ever watch a foreign film. The topic to you may be what country makes the best horror movie, but the topic to me is who makes the best horror right now. And for right now, my money's got to be on Finland. And you understand, at least, that as long as I can get my horror fix and as long as a good horror is getting made, I don't give a where it's coming from.
White sandy beach, white sandy beach.
It doesn't
All
work.
right.
I've been trying it for 30 years.
I am now going to ask the same question to you.
I actually can see where Kevin's coming from because I had a really difficult time with this as well. Because it's sort of like what Kevin had sort of touched on a few weeks back when he was sort of saying, it all really depends on what we find scary. So, I mean, you think about it, the US is great for slasher films. Canada's got sort of a very kind of twisted sensibility. I'd argue that the country that's been the most influential in shaping horror as we see it today is Germany. German horrors existed as early as 1913 with The Student of Prague. They produced other silent and expressionist classics like Nosferatu, Cabinet of Dr. Caligari, and The Golem. Now, this style was borrowed from heavily by Hollywood to create movies like Dracula, Frankenstein, and The Mummy. More recently, people probably hear German cinema and think of Uwe Boll and Timo Rose.
Yeah.
I'd like to address the class.
Yeah.
Uwe Boll is a piece of movie making.
No arguments for me.
He is so terrible that the only movie that I've ever honestly wanted to walk out of was one by that piece of shit. I actually wanted to fight him when he actually challenged the internet to fight. I said, sure, pick me. He didn't pick me. If I build a time machine, I'm going back to fight Uwe Boll. That's what I'm going to do.
I mean, in fairness, it takes a lot of commitment to be that consistently terrible. So,
No,
gotta props
tell
to
us how you
that.
really feel. Please, tell us how you really feel.
I dislike him as an artiste.
Historically, German cinema has treated the horror genre with a certain level of reverence. It's more of a slow burn, more suspenseful, more atmospheric. I'm painting with a fairly broad brush, but they seem to treat it as more of an art form, which is something I think a lot of filmmakers have forgotten about.
I can agree with that. You know, when you look at some of the films that have come out of Germany, historically, but what's the last German horror film that you can think of?
Well, recently, Anatomy, We Are the Night, and Antibodies are all really excellent, if somewhat underrated German films that have come out in recent years.
Anybody's I've heard of.
I mean, the whole Germany thing, I mean, goes all the way back. I'll accord you a certain level of respect, if only to go all the way back to Murnau and Nosferatu.
I mean, most countries kind of think that Germans are a little crazy anyways, and I find German cinema tends to really kind of prove that more often than not. But these are great examples of movies that are very German and, very, very valid entries into the horror genre.
As someone whose background is German, I feel I should almost take offense to that, but I'll let it go.
Hey, one German to another.
Ja, ist gut, ja. Ja.
Well, I'll say this. This topic's definitely sort of opened my eyes to a couple of different countries and when we were researching it. And I'm actually pretty interested because, I've known this guy for so long. I don't actually know which country you're for.
Well, see, I'm going to take the home team advantage. And I'm going to say that right here in Canada, we rock. I mean, you go back, I know people going, Canada doesn't make horror films. Yes, we do. You go all the way back, Bob Clark and Black Christmas. This was the movie that John Carpenter freely admits influenced Halloween. This is the movie that kicked off an entire freaking genre. And then we go a little farther forward, we get Cronenberg. Scanners, great movie. Body horror, he pretty much invented body horror. Which would lead into Hostel and all the rest of the torture porn.
One of the earlier films from one of the earlier episodes I referenced was The Changeling. Definitely one of the scariest things. I mean, a rubber ball scares the crap out of you.
And then, moving forward, we got things like the Ginger Snaps, which I know I've gone on about, but still possibly one of the best werewolf movies ever made. Cube, brilliant piece of horror suspense filmmaking. It's right here, and we're still going. You look at the Soska sisters with American Mary. These guys are great. They're cutting edge.
I got to break in.
Yep.
Soska sisters, if you're out there watching, call me.
But, even now we're doing it. The thing is that it's great because literally if you talk to people, they will say, well, those aren't Canadian horror films, but they all are. Everybody forgets. That's kind of the beauty of us is that we sneak in under the radar. People go, oh, those are American, but they're not. They're 100% Canadian. So what's your take on it? Where do you sit in this little discussion that we're having, Mr. McClelland?
Well. To be honest with you, as far as I'm concerned, this is my own personal opinion, although I'm sure that many people will have the same opinion. The best country to ever make horror films, bar none, I hate to say it, is the United States of America. Now, this country has given us the classics. We're looking at Dracula. We're looking at The Wolfman. We're looking at Frankenstein. We're looking at The Hunchback of Notre Dame. But then we move forward into the future, and we have things like The Exorcist. And we have Nightmare on Elm Street. And Halloween. And it goes on and on from there. So ultimately, to me, the country that gives us the best horror, more because they're icons in horror, they know how to make it work. Everybody wants to see an American horror film.
They do, but I'm gonna fire back at you that all they're doing is copying the Canadians. Black Christmas to Halloween, the Germans, Nosferatu to Dracula. Yes, they'll take it to the next level, but they take everything to the next level, whether it's racketeering or bigger portions at McDonald's. They take everything to the next level.
I also got to say, you brought up the classics, the universal big time, group with Dracula, Frankenstein, and the Wolfman, all set in other countries.
And all of them derivative works from other countries.
It doesn't matter. Boris Karloff, Vincent Price, these people in the past as to these wonderful directors of our now, such as Wes Craven, such as Clive Barker, such as, well, it just goes on and on and on.
I agree with you as you get away from the sort of the birth of horror in film. You know, because again, most of those stories were all taken from fables or from, you know, classic works of literature, and again, written from all over the world, or at least those perspectives. But I definitely have to say you're right as far as now, because per capita, the only thing that's driving me nuts about America is their incessant need to remake something that doesn't need to be fixed.
And I agree. I agree with the remakes. I have a problem with a lot of remakes. But if you're asking me, which right now we are, what is the best country that has ever made horror films? Collectively, if you look in the past, you look in the near like past or the now. And if we look towards the future, it's still America in that respect. More because of the fact that they bring out volume. There's more horror coming out of that country than any other country.
Does it become a question of quantity over quality?
And you know what? I have to agree. I roll my eyes at a lot of the crap that comes out of American film.
Yeah.
Sharknado!
No, that's
a whole different
I've
one.
never even watched that, so I have no opinion. But that's where I'm at. So here we are. We've all got our opinions on what country we like, except for Kevin.
No, I said Finland. I settled.
Yeah. Well, you said
Well, you forced me into the little box that you all want me to live in, and that's fine. You want me in a little box? I'll live in a little box. But know this.
Actually, I was thinking
Kevin,
more like a pine
I was
box
hoping,
about 6 feet
well,
long
I
and
was
6 feet
thinking
deep.
of a box maybe only a foot by a foot that we actually crammed his body into.
I like
Forget the
your
pine
I
box.
like your philosophy and would like to subscribe to it.
Thank you.
I'm just saying that you can't box me in, man. Peace.
Oh, man.
What do you think? What country makes the best horror films? Let us know in the comment section down below.
And don't forget to subscribe to our channel. I am pretty damn sure the subscribe button is right down here. Not up there, down here. And like us on Facebook.
See you soon.